Let's take the Digidestined from Digimon Adventure and turn them into gym leaders. Pokémon and Digimon, two monster collecting franchises that stood at the peak of children's entertainment in the late 90s and early 2000s. There were wars fought over which was the superior franchise. Many were lost. Unless you were like me and loved both, which was much easier than trying to gatekeep people's interests. I'm looking at you, comment section. Obviously, I grew into more of a Pokemon fan, but recently I rediscovered my love for Digimon thanks to a wonderful channel and person named Karn EX.
Wait, where am I? What the fuck?
Hey, Karn! Speak of the devil, huh? Well, since they're here, do you want to help me give the Digidestined their own gym leader teams?
Yeah, sounds like fun to me.
Alright, let's do it. Before we get started, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to keep up to date with future videos. Also, make sure to go subscribe to Karn if you like Digimon content as well. We will actually be doing the inverse of this video over on his channel, where we'll be giving the gym leaders, and Ash, their own Digimon partners. So after you're done with this, make sure to go check that out. Anyway, I'll let Karn introduce himself and our first Digidestined gym leader.
Hey, what is up? Yes, I am Karn from the channel Karn EX, and for this list, we've decided to try and give each of the Digidestined an element because they already kind of do have them, and that will make it easier to build their teams of Pokemon. We're also giving them a team of around 3 to 4 Pokemon because that's generally how many gym leaders tend to have. And I think if we went to a full team of 6, we start seeing repeats or just picks that are a little bit too loosey-goosey and don't really apply. So that 3 to 4 gym leader team feels just right. Obviously, my channel primarily focuses on Digimon, but growing up in the 90s, I was a big fan of Pokemon too, my favorite region being Johto. And it's more than okay to like Pokemon and Digimon, guys. Put down your pitchforks. And the first Digidestined we're going to be giving a Pokemon team to is Tai, the leader of the Digidestined in Digimon Adventure. And he of course will be a Fire-type gym leader, echoing his crest of courage. As such, we see his Pokemon team starting with a Alolan Marowak, very obviously a Skull Greymon nod. I mean, it's literally a reptile with a skull on it, it's basically Pokemon Skull Greymon. Then Tai would also have a Heatmor. This references Metal Greymon with its more mechanical elements of its design. Heatmor being a mix of an anteater and a flamethrower. Also, its name is Heat plus Armor. Metal Greymon is ostensibly an armored Greymon, so we could have gone with Heatran too, but it doesn't really give off the same Metal Greymon vibe that I think we can kind of see in Heatmor. And then would be Charizard, his ace Pokemon. Visually, of course, Charizard would act as a parallel to Tai's Agumon and eventual Greymon. The big orange lizard, I mean, it's right there. And if we're enabling Mega Evolution, Mega Charizard X and Y definitely have something of the kind of Metal Greymon / Skull Greymon to them, especially considering the Virus Metal Greymon, which Tai's Agumon actually did become in Digimon Adventure 02. Mega Charizard X's coloration matches that very well.
Next up is Tai's right-hand man, Izzy. Izzy was probably the easiest to give a gym leader type to. Tentomon is a bug, and stays a bug throughout the entire evolution line. So, ice type. I'm just kidding, it's bug type. It's bug type. His team would start off with Heracross, which is a reference to Kabuterimon and Mega Kabuterimon. Mega Kabuterimon even has a blue form which looks strikingly similar to Heracross. Pinsir also would have been a good fit here, but honestly, I think that Pinsir is a better Kawagamon equivalent rather than a Kabuterimon one. Next up is Vikavolt. This more so reflects Hercules Kabuterimon and is also a nod to Tentomon's signature move, Super Shocker. Also, another member of the Kabuterimon line, Tyrant Kabuterimon, which appears in some Digimon games, bears a similar resemblance to Vikavolt's taser face thing. Taser face! Izzy's ace would of course be Orbeetle. Orbeetle is a perfect parallel to Izzy. It is based on a ladybug like Tentomon, and it is bug psychic type, which reflects Izzy's crest of knowledge and overall whiz-kid energy. Honestly, the entire Orbeetle line really meshes well with Izzy.
Then is Mimi, the crest bearer of Sincerity, whose Digivolutions very naturally tie into grass, plants, and fauna. And in Digimon Adventure 02, we also see that the Digi-Egg of Sincerity gives off a lot of these plant armors. So grass-type Pokemon feel very natural here. Her team would begin with a Carnivine as a reference to Palmon's vines that it uses in its attacks and its general leafy appendages. Then she would have a Maractus, which would act somewhat as a reference to Togemon, but also a reference to Ponchomon, who is a potential Digi-Egg of Sincerity armor evolution for Patamon, but also acted as an alternative champion form for Palmon in the recent season Digimon Adventure 2020. The maracas in Maractus's name matching up with the maracas that Ponchomon has, and just in general, Maractus's aesthetic very much matches the pink and flower aesthetic that you would expect from Mimi. And then her ace would be Roseraid, acting of course as a reference to Mimi's partners' ultimate and mega forms Lilymon and Rosemon, and very much fits the elegant vibe that Rosemon has, right down to rose petals making up the headpiece of both Roseraid and Rosemon.
Next up is Sora, and she would be a flying type gym leader. I mean, her name literally means sky, and she has a bird Digimon, so her first mon would be Braviary. Braviary is a bird with Native American aspects to its design. Garudamon is also a bird with Native American aspects to its design. Need I say more? Next in her team would be Archeops. The coloration and general vibe of Archeops matches Ho-Omon pretty well, and also in Digimon Masters, Ho-Omon can evolve into Ornismon, whose design is also inspired by the Archaeopteryx. Sora's ace would be Talonflame, which reflects Bergermon's fiery design, and the coloration and pattern on its tail feathers is similar to Garudamon. Moltres also works as a Bergermon equivalent because Fire Chicken, and Ho-Oh could have served as a Ho-Omon reference, judging by the fact they share the same name and design inspiration. But when's the last time you saw a gym leader have a legendary Pokemon?
And then next is the senpai of the group, Joe, whose crest of reliability of course manifests very often as a water type elemental, which you can see in his partner Digimon's evolution line as well as in armor Digivolutions from his crest like Submarimon. As such, Joe as a water type trainer or gym leader would get Primarina. This would act as a reference to Gomamon because it fits a similar vibe, although admittedly more feminine than Gomamon's kind of default rookie vibe, and of course is a sea lion seal which does fit the visuals of Gomamon. Then would be Samurott as a somewhat reference to Zudamon and Vikemon. Obviously Samurott is a samurai and Zudamon and Vikemon are kind of Viking inspired, but there is that warrior combined with sea life aesthetic, and again Samurott and Zudamon / Vikemon are fitting a kind of sea lion aesthetic, although that really does start to get lost in Vikemon. But I think you can see visually how Samurott could go alongside Zudamon and Vikemon. And then finally would be Walrein, his ace. Visually, of course, this looks closest to Ikakumon, who is Gomamon's champion form, but also does fold in some elements we see in Zudamon and Vikemon, namely the kind of tusks. And its ice-water typing and being a walrus very much so works both as a gym leader's Pokemon and also again to tie into Joe. Joe Mama. Nice. Nice. First time that joke's ever been made.
From here on, it gets a bit tricky with the typings of the Digidestined. TK and Kari could have easily been the same typing due to the similarities between their crests and their Digimon's evolutions, but we found a way to split them up we think works out best. So for TK, we went with the Psychic type, and there are a couple reasons why. For one, the Pokemon selection within the Psychic typing fit TK better, and for two, the Crest of Hope is a shooting star, and Psychic type tends to be related to that cosmic kind of energy. So to start off TK's team, we have Galarian Rapidash. This represents Patamon's armor evolution, Pegasusmon, a horse-like creature that represents light. I think it's fair to say that description covers both Galarian Rapidash and Pegasusmon. Next up is Claydol, and it's a reference to the Jogress or DNA Digivolution of Angemon and Aquilamon, Shakumon.
Yeah, it's like a giant teapot just walked over my grave.
Claydol and Shakomon both reference Shakoki Dogu, a kind of ancient Japanese sculpture, so it was a natural fit for TK. TK's ace would be Gallade. Gallade is the closest thing to an Angemon equivalent you can find in Pokemon, especially Mega Gallade, which could also be seen as a Magna Angemon equivalent. There's also another reason for Gallade being on TK's team, but I'll leave that for Karn to explain.
And then we would have Kari as a fairy-type gym leader. As Prag said, it's more difficult to match up Hope and Light to Pokemon types compared to the other Digidestined, but Fairy does work fairly well, especially given that Kari's crest is usually identified with the colour pink. Pink, light, fairy, it all kind of works. But within that realm, because Kari's obviously evolution line is kind of cats and then ostensibly all just angels, and apart from one big cat later on that's also a dragon. Digimon's awesome, by the way. We did have to get a little bit creative with her team. As such, she would get Sylveon, the closest thing to a fairy cat Pokemon there is, as a reference to Gatomon, and kind of her Salamon too, being on all fours. Hell, it even kind of works as an oblique reference to Magnadramon too. Then she would get Mimikyu, a reference to Ophanimon Fall Down mode, not only because of its typing, but because it literally falls down when hit because of its ability. There is also the Digimon Betsumon, who is somewhat of a trickster or imposter that wears a Gatomon costume. This link to Betsumon being an imposter Gatomon is very similar to Mimikyu being an imposter Pikachu. Although of course Kari never actually had a Betsumon on her team, but the Betsumon-Gatomon connection is what we're going for there. And then is Gardevoir, which is probably the closest to an Angelwomon equivalent that we're going to get in Pokemon, and then Mega Gardevoir would sort of act as an Ophanimon equivalent. In addition to working alongside TK having a Gallade, which makes a really great parallel that was too good to pass up. Gardevoir and Gallade ostensibly acting as the Angemon and Angelwomon of this situation.
Last but not least, we have the coolest kid of the Digidestined, Matt. Matt was the trickiest to pick a typing for. Ice is the obvious choice, right? Because of the Gabumon line's use of ice powers. But when researching ice-type Pokemon for Matt to use, none of them really fit the vibe of Matt or Gabumon properly. So we decided to go a little bit out there and use the type that represents Matt's crest of friendship, Electric. Most of the Crest of Friendship Digi-Egg or Digimental evolutions have something to do with electricity, and a lot of electric-type Pokemon just fit Matt's vibe better. So with that said, Matt would begin with Toxtricity. This mon doesn't really have anything to do with Gabumon, and is instead a reference to Matt's band seen in Digimon Adventure 02 and Adventure Tri, in which he plays electric guitar. Next, he would have Zebstrika. This is a reference to the pattern on Garurumon's fur. Also, the transition from Blitzel to Zebstrika kind of matches the personality shift of Gabumon to Garurumon. Lastly would be his ace, Luxray. Clearly meant to match Garurumon. Luxray may be a cat and Garurumon a wolf, but Gabumon is a reptile that evolves into a wolf, so I think we can let this one slide. Also, the incorporation of X-ray technology into Luxray's design matches Metal Garurumon, who more prominently has technology as a part of its design. This team was a bit of a stretch, I know, but ultimately we felt like it fit Matt best given the parameters of the video. Anyway, that was the Digidestined as gym leaders.
Let us know what you think and what you think we could have done differently.
Also, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
And make sure you head over to my channel right now where we did the inverse and worked out what the Kanto gym leaders might look like if they had Digimon partners, plus one little baseball cap wearing kid.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and with that, we will see you guys next time.